The fallout of the lockdown than any other journalist in India. I'm talking about veteran news anchor and author Barkha Dutt. Her new book, titled To Hell and Back, The Humans of COVID, is not about the numbers, but the stories and people behind the headlines.
It was a lovely evening, a thoughtful evening. I thought there were some really, really nuanced questions. People have really applied their minds to it, a whole variety. I think we covered everything from women to foreign policy to the economy. So it was very interesting.
I saw the book, mention COVID, and I felt it should be an interesting topic that she must have covered and to understand her journalism practices. And from the session that we had for a couple of hours and the kind of questions, the way she answered, articulated, and it was pretty interesting and eye-opening, insightful actually. And the stories that she shared with examples and insights were pretty amazing. So it was a pretty engaging session, actually.
Anyone who loses someone they love, it's gut-wrenching. But for me, it was a second layer of strangeness because I had to continue to be a professional journalist while being a heartbroken daughter. And actually, it was the only way I knew how to deal. I didn't know what else to do. So, of course, while I had COVID, I had to stay in my basement for 14 days. And then I got up and I went out and I started reporting again because I think I didn't know how else to deal with processed grief.
I've been following Barkha Dutt for quite some time. I think she's been very inspirational when she's been a television journalist, even more so being a journalist now via YouTube on Mojo Stories. I think it was an opportunity for us to engage her, get her insights, being a very ground roots reporter, share her stories and her experiences, not only through COVID, but her experiences and her insights on various different subjects, whether it's world affairs, the politics, entertainment, and I think it was a great event for us to kind of assume that and take that in. So I think it was a great event.
But I found her extremely engaging, extremely personable, very, very factual and intelligent. I came away with a better sense of journalism as a whole and her viewpoint towards, and her love of her country and her love of spreading proper news, not just news.
How many people are really dying? Is there a class divide? Is everybody getting access to the tests? Is everybody getting tested? Are the dead being counted? These should have been the questions. But unfortunately, several of our networks went into this kind of tutu meme kind of, nightly debates. So I don't think it was media's finest hour, at least not the channels.
It was a privilege being here with Barkha Dutt, obviously a very eminent news reporter, Emmy-nominated journalist. I obviously had a different perspective of India before, some of the questions she answered for us, so very enterprising. I was delighted to have an interaction with her. Obviously, India is the next China. Obviously, there's a lot going on between Russia, China, and the world is looking at India, and obviously that's very enterprising.
The event was, programmed to come in for Barkha to speak a little bit on her book, To Hell and Back. It was her journey through COVID when her and her team went out through about 16,000 miles by road to cover stories on COVID. The event was also for the audience to have insights with Barkha and talk to her and see what her experiences have been, not only as a journalist through COVID, but as a journalist overall.
I would say that it is about the humans of COVID, which is the other part of the title. I think everywhere in the world, the story of COVID was told through numbers, through statistics, through dashboards, through number of active cases. But what about the people? And what I attempt to do in this book is to really tell the story of the people of the pandemic, and through that a story about a little bit about myself, about my country, India, and also about the media. So it's a lot of different things with COVID as the background.
Celebrated journalist Barkha Dutt launched her new book, To Hell and Back, The Humans of COVID, in New York last Friday. Our special thanks to Niraj Kake for hosting us at Pipli Restaurant in Manhattan. And from one event to another, the Punjabi Chamber of